Leviticus 15. You know how we just spent chapters talking about leprosy and murdering animals? Well, that is not going to prepare you for the R-rated content you are about to hear. It's time for the chapter on bodily fluids. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when any man has an unusual bodily discharge, such a discharge is unclean. Whether it continues flowing from his body or is blocked, it will make him unclean. This is how his discharge will bring about uncleanness." Unusual bodily discharge. That is such a loaded term. That describes everything that came out of me when I was 14. And what are these discharges that continue flowing from your body? Like, the only thing that seems to apply is blood after a beheading, in which case you've got bigger issues. Any bed the man with the discharge lies on will be unclean, and anything he sits on will be unclean. Anyone who touches his bed must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Whoever sits on anything that the man with the discharge sat on must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Well, there goes summer at the biblical nudist colony. Whoever touches the man who has a discharge must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. If the man with the discharge spits on anyone who is clean, they must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Why the hell would a dude with discharge spit on someone without permission? Stop it. And listen, you don't need me to tell you this, but touching a man leads to discharge, not the other way around. You're welcome. Everything the man sits on when writing will be unclean, and whoever touches any of the things that were under him will be unclean till evening. Whoever picks up those things must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Anyone the man with the discharge touches without rinsing his hands with water must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Everything a dude sits on when riding will be unclean. Yeah, if he's doing it right. A clay pot that the man touches must be broken, and any wooden article is to be rinsed with water. I love the Bible's priorities here. If a man is leaking fluid, we must take care of the clay pots. When a man is cleansed from his discharge, he is to count off 7 days for his ceremonial cleansing. He must wash his clothes and bathe himself with fresh water, and he will be clean. On the 8th day, he must take 2 doves or 2 young pigeons and come before the Lord to the entrance to the tent of meeting and give them to the priest. The priest is to sacrifice them, the one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. In this way, he will make atonement before the Lord for the man because of his discharge. After a discharge, you need to wait 7 days for a cleansing? Oh man, most men are never getting clean. Anyway, good to know we're still murdering birds for no reason at all. Back to basics. I know I'm joking about the discharge, but the Bible is now going to get super specific about the discharge. When a man has an emission of semen, he must bathe his whole body with water, and he will be unclean till evening. Any clothing or leather that has semen on it must be washed with water, and it will be unclean till evening. When a man has sexual relations with a woman and there is an emission of semen, both of them must bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Sorry, men, if you got semen on your leather, you both need a bath. Who knew they were into leather back in the day? Moses has some kinks. Did you catch that it said when a man has sex with a woman and there's an emission of semen, as if there's a possibility that's not gonna happen? As if those are 2 separate things. As if the guy might fake it. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I'm more amused by the idea of the Bible taking that into account. That whole section is just a way to encourage men to avoid sex, because there's a lot of extra work involved. God's saying, you can have it, but it'll require a shower and laundry. So, think twice. Or, even if you have sex, God says you're unclean for the rest of the day, which is a very convenient excuse for some men. Sorry, honey, I know you're not satisfied, but I'm unclean now, so you'll just have to wait. What? Round 2? Right now? I couldn't possibly do that. God would be so mad. Now, you might be wondering, what happens if a woman has an emission during sex? Well, the Bible has nothing to say about that at all, because the Bible was written by men. When a woman has her regular flow of blood, the impurity of her monthly period will last 7 days, and anyone who touches her will be unclean till evening. Anything she lies on during her period will be unclean, and anything she sits on will be unclean. Anyone who touches her bed will be unclean. They must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Anyone who touches anything she sits on will be unclean. They must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Whether it is the bed or anything she was sitting on, when anyone touches it, they will be unclean till evening. We went straight from talking about a man having sex to a woman in pain. Nothing else to cover here. Nothing else could possibly go on down there for women. Got it. If a man has sexual relations with her and her monthly flow touches him, he will be unclean for 7 days. Any bed he lies on will be unclean. If a man has sexual relations with her and her monthly flow touches him, has to be the most awkward way to explain period sex I have ever heard. And her monthly flow touching him? The blood isn't some sentient creature here. It's just a thing that happens. Calm down, people. When a woman has a discharge of blood for many days at a time other than her monthly period, or has a discharge that continues beyond her period, she will be unclean as long as she has the discharge, just as in the days of her period. Any bed she lies on while her discharge continues will be unclean, as is her bed during her monthly period, and anything she sits on will be unclean, as during her period. Anyone who touches them will be unclean. They must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. When she is cleansed from her discharge, she must count off 7 days, and after that she will be ceremonially cleaned. On the 8th day, she must take 2 doves or 2 young pigeons and bring them to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting. The priest is to sacrifice one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. In this way, he will make atonement for her before the Lord for the uncleanness of her discharge. If a woman is discharging blood for days at a time, and it's not her period, notice that the Bible does not say, here's how we can help her. She should go to a doctor. Let's make sure she's not in pain. Nope. Instead, all we learn is that the stuff she touches is now yucky, and the people around her need a bath. And also, let's murder some things. Admit it. You thought we were done with the animal sacrifice. No. Let that be a lesson to you. In the Bible, we are never done with animal sacrifice. You must keep the Israelites separate from things that make them unclean, so they will not die in their uncleanness for defiling my dwelling place, which is among them. We got it, God. No one's gonna ruin your Airbnb. You can keep renting it out. Relax. Actually, if Israelites have to stay away from things that make them unclean, God basically just told them to avoid women forever. These are the regulations for a man with a discharge, for anyone made unclean by an emission of semen, for a woman in her monthly period, for a man or a woman with a discharge, and for a man who has sexual relations with a woman who is ceremonially unclean. Even in the Bible, Christians are just so bad at discussing anything that involves sex. At no point do they say, you know what? You both want to do it? Go for it. It's all about who's unclean and who needs to shower and who needs to be isolated and who needs to be killed. And that concludes one of the more awkward chapters in the series on biblical rules. It's a very long way of God saying, don't have sex with anyone ever. The sex negativity starts so early with these people.